What's up, my wizards? It's Dev from Mtg. We like magic, and I got some rival spoilers for you today. That's right, you guys. It's finally happening. We got some cards to look at. We got to see the Planeswalker deck cards just a couple of days ago, and usually it's like, yeah, big deal. You know what I mean? But actually, I think the walkers look kind of interesting from the Planeswalker decks this time around. So we'll talk about those, and we got to see 2 cards from the actual set itself. It's really like 1.5 cards. You'll see what I mean when we get there. But anyway, start with these Planeswalker decks. But first things first, here's Angrath Minotaur Pirate, which is a really cool typing. Minotaur Pirate, and he's got an awesome, like, Flame Whip, looking all Balrogged out. But anyway, Bullboy is 6 mana, 4 a black and a red for a 5 loyalty legendary Planeswalker. You can +2 it to have it deal 1 damage to target opponent and each creature that player controls. You can -3 it to return target pirate card from your graveyard to the battlefield. Neat. And you can -11 it to destroy all creatures target opponent controls. That's pretty sweet. But there's more. Angrath Minotaur Pirate deals damage to that player equal to those creatures' total power. Well, as always, got to point out that these are Planeswalker deck cards. None of them are going to really see standard play. You know, they're obviously designed so as not to be powerful enough for Constructed, but I still think it's fun to analyze them, and I think that these 2 Planeswalkers we got to see yesterday are actually pretty awesome. But Angrath, you know, I don't love the first ability or anything, but it can take out a board full of tokens if that ever happens, and it pings the opponent. That's at least something for your 6 mana investment. The -3 looks pretty enticing at first, but I think Liliana is just better. You know, it costs a mana cheaper, and there's no like stipulation on creature type, so it kind of looks good when you first read it, and you're like, oh, there's better stuff. So I don't know about that either in Constructed, but the ultimate is crazy. The ultimate is a one-sided wrath that also hits them for like theoretically a lot of damage, but you'll never get to the ultimate. It's probably not going to happen. The +2 is like really, really bad, and it costs 6 mana to begin with, so it just takes forever. But I will say the ultimate is crazy, and it's one of the best looking ultimates I've ever seen on a Planeswalker deck. Planeswalker. That is really, really good. Here's a lady we all know and love. This is Vraska Scheming Gorgon right here. She's also 6 mana. 4 and 2 black for another 5 loyalty legendary Planeswalker. You +2 her, and creatures you control get +1/+0 until end of turn. Yippee. You can -3 her to destroy target creature. That's not terrible. And you can -10 her to until end of turn. Creatures you control gain Death Touch, and whenever this creature deals damage to an opponent, that player loses the game. Another pretty crazy ultimate, you know, and this is reminiscent of an old Vraska's ultimate. I think that's kind of cool that they called back to that. And it's just another ultimate, like, if you can get to it, it's just kind of really broken. And, like, for this and Angrath, I feel like I do have to mention there are cards in the format, like Malphus Revolutionary, Skyship Plunderer. Like, if you really, really wanted to get crazy, then you could put loyalty counters onto these Planeswalkers at a much faster rate than normal. If you want to get to these, like, really busted ultimates, like, that's insane too. And honestly, I think what gives it the edge over Angrath is the ability to just destroy any old creature that you want to. Hey Julie, how you doing? But that's really, really nice that it can do that, especially within the context of like a Planeswalker deck game where you're just running these 2 decks up against one another. Hey, lady, all in my face. But in any case, I think that Vraska probably wins as far as battle of the 2 Planeswalkers from Planeswalker decks. She looks pretty decent, but again, never going to see Constructed play, very likely, and the 6 mana Vraska in Standard that we already had is just way better. There's just no reason that you do it. Again, unless you really, really wanted to put something evil together to try to abuse that ultimate. It might be worth it to try and do something fun there. As far as the rares in the Planeswalker decks, here's Angrath's Fury. It's 5 mana, 3 a black and a red for a sorcery. Destroy target creature. Angrath's Fury deals 3 damage to target player. You may search your library and or graveyard for a card named Angrath Minotaur Pirate, reveal it, put it into your hand. If you search your library this way, shuffle it. Okay, so like sorcery speed, unlicensed disintegration for 2 extra mana is actually not horrible. Again, within the context of 2 Planeswalker decks playing against one another, it's actually not the worst card ever, you know. So, again, it's no unlicensed or anything, but it's still a pretty decent card, especially when it searches up the best card in your deck or gets it out of your graveyard. That seems good. That seems really good to kill their best thing and get your Angrath back from the graveyard. So, again, I think in the context of Planeswalker deck rares, this is better than what we usually see, and that's a step in the right direction. But then there's this. Here's Vraska's Scorn. It's 4 mana, 2 and 2 black for a sorcery. Target opponent loses 2 life. And you do the same thing that you do with all Planeswalker deck rares. And you search your library or graveyard for your Vraska, your specifically named Vraska, reveal it and put it into your hand. And then if you search your library, you shuffle. Now this I don't like anywhere near as much as I like the Angrath rare. You know, it doesn't affect the board in really any way. And I know it costs 1 mana less, and that's cool and all, but you know, both planeswalkers that you'll be searching for cost 6 mana, so the difference in mana is kind of negligible when sort of the big payoff is getting to your 6 mana planeswalker. So I'd really like if it affected the board in any way. I like direct damage and stuff, don't get me wrong. 4 mana for losing 4 life is kind of okay sounding, but honestly there's way much better stuff you could be doing for 4 mana. And again, I know, Planeswalker deck cards are specifically designed not to be constructed playable, but I mean, just if you're you know, comparing the two Planeswalker deck rares to one another, Angrass is like way better than this to me. But let's talk about these uncommons for not very long, honestly. Here's Angrass Ambusher right here. It's 3 mana, 2 and a black for a 2/3 Orc Pirate, and it gets +2/+0 as long as you got an Angrath. I don't really have to show my face long here, you know. It's essentially a 3 mana 2/3, which is okay in limited environments and planeswalker decks and stuff. And then once you get your you know, Minotaur out, it's a 4 power guy. I mean, it's okay, but it's kind of boring. Next, here's Vraska's Conquistador right here. Interesting because it's a vampire. It's 2 mana, 1 and a black for a 2/1 vampire soldier. Whenever Vraska's Conquistador attacks or blocks, if you control a Vraska planeswalker, target opponent loses 2 and you gain 2. This is much more interesting than Angrath's, you know, uncommon. I feel like Angrath definitely wins the contest of rares, but as far as uncommons go, this is actually kind of neat. I don't think this is going to see in constructed play, despite the fact that it's a 2 mana, 2 power black vampire. We really don't have a whole lot of that outside of Gifted Aetherborn, which is obviously the much better card. But again, as far as the context of these decks, this is not bad, you know, an efficient bear, essentially, you know, a 2 mana, 2 power thing. That can trade on blocks and stuff, and if you've already got a Vraska out, it gets a sort of form of lifelink, kind of, and like a power boost in a way too. Like, I really like it without slapping the words lifelink or +2/+0 on it. They've been able to do both things in a way without, you know, it being really broken. So I kind of like that. And I mean, you know, once you got your Vraska out, paying 2 mana for something that can essentially hit for 4 and gain you 2 that's a really good investment for just 2 mana. So I hate that you have to have a Vraska out. That's kind of lame, but I mean, the card is efficient enough even before that, again, in limited environments. So I think this is a really interesting Planeswalker deck card. But now let's go the other way with that. Here's Swab Goblin. It's not interesting at all. It's 2 mana, 1 and a red for a 2/2 Goblin Pirate. So I guess my favorite thing about this card is that you're just going to call it Swab Gob. Swab Gob. And people are probably going to get into the fight that they got over Wily Goblin. We all got into this fight like, that's not a goblin, it's a monkey. And this is legitimately a monkey. So I don't really get how goblins work in this universe either. But yeah, I mean, there's really not much to say about the actual card. 2 mana 2/2 ho-hum. But first of all, you know, goblins aren't monkeys, so there's that to talk about. And Swab Gob is hilarious. Do with that what you will. And here's Vampire Champion to finish off the Planeswalker deck commons, and thus the Planeswalker deck cards. It's 4 mana, 3 and a black for a 3/3 Vampire Soldier with Death Touch, and that's the end of it. I kind of sort of wish that this was in, like, actual Rivals of Ixalan in limited, you know? Like, 4 mana 3/3s are kind of okay, you know, bread and butter as long as they do something in limited. And having Death Touch is really pretty good. So I just kind of wish this was actually available to play in a real limited environment. But it's not, and within the context of these decks, this looks like a fine card that's either going to trade up or just like really intimidate stuff under it on the curve. So I kind of like the design of it, even though it's fairly simple. It's not super interesting, but it would kind of be neat if we could actually play this in limited. So breeze through all that stuff, but we actually have, again, 1.5 Rivals of Ixalan cards from the actual, honest-to-God set, Rivals of Ixalan, to talk about to finish things up here. The first thing is the half of a card that we've gotten so far, and there's a lot of speculation to be made here. But anyway, here's Captain's Hook. I see what you did there, Wizards. That was very cute of you. Captain's Hook is an artifact. It's an equipment, but we don't know the mana cost yet, which seems pretty important. Equipped creature gets +2/+0, has menace, and is a pirate in addition to its other creature types. Whenever Captain's Hook becomes unattached from a permanent, destroy that permanent. You can equip it for just 1 mana. Okay, so my basic speculation on Hook here is that if it's 1 mana, it's probably really, really playable, you know. At 2 mana, it's okay, but it's probably going to be tough to find slots for. In whatever deck you're building, you know, there's probably just going to be better cards at 2 mana especially. So I'm just not sure about that. And at 3 mana, it's decent and limited and is like trophy mageable, but this adds to the pile of garbage cards that are trophy mageable, and that's like the only thing noteworthy about them. At 3 mana, I don't think it's playable at all, but it is rare. We know that about it, so it has a chance of being 1 mana, and if it is, it's definitely worthy of consideration. You know, +2/+0 and an evasive ability is awesome, and the ability to be like buffed by your Admiral Beckett Brass, or there's other reasons why you'd want this in a pirate deck too, you know. And if it was 1 mana, it'd be a cheap artifact for like improvise and other artifact strategies. I think there's a lot to like about this card if it just costs 1, but I wouldn't get my hopes up. Something's telling me this card probably costs 2, but would it be a rare if it costs 2? Like, see how this works? You know, I definitely hope that it cost 1, because I don't think that at 1 mana it would be incredibly busted and take over the format. I don't think that at all, honestly, but I do think it would be a playable piece of equipment, and it's, you know, we don't see that every day in Standard nowadays. The most it would do is add a little bit of punch and evasion to the Pirates deck, which is not the best deck and definitely needs some pieces to get going, but you know, it doesn't have a whole lot of slots that it wants to work with unless like incredibly better versions of nearly, you know, already existing cards are printed. So I just don't know if we're going to cut slots from Pirates to play this and essentially lower our curve, get a little bit faster. It would work really well on our Goblins with flying and stuff like Daring Sleuth that can go unblockable. Like, I really like a few things about this card, absolutely, but I just don't know. You know what I mean? If we get a really good 1-drop pirate, or even a really good 2-drop pirate, I just think that playing cards like that will take priority over playing cards like this, because again, there's not a ton of cuttable looking slots from the Pirates deck right now. So we'll see how much it costs, and then we'll go from there. But again, I wouldn't necessarily get my hopes up that it costs just 1 mana or anything. And if it costs 2, then it's going to be a really tough call. I really don't know that it'll go into Pirates at 2 mana, but we'll see. I want to get your opinion on it, how much you think this card costs. But here's the last card of the day, and the one that we've seen the entire thing. This is Brass's Bounty right here. It's 7 mana, 6 and a red for a sorcery. For each land you control, create a treasure. All right, so 7 mana is a lot. Let me get that out of the way so I don't have to say it again, even though I probably will. 7 mana is an awful lot, but this looks pretty neat alongside like Hour of Promise. That's an awful lot of ramp on turn 5 or 6, you know. And it looks even fun to try with niche stuff, you know, stuff like Wildfire Eternal. Give that a try. It's on color, at least. And it's a great, like, huge thing to try to cast. And it even looks fun with, like, Neheb. Try it with Neheb if you wanted to. There's just a lot of, like, fun-looking stuff that this could go into. Like, Sunbird's Invocation. That seems hilarious, too. So we're going to definitely start brewing with it. It's definitely, you know, call him a name. There's also the fact that if you have a Revel in Riches or like a Marionette Master, that you just win the game. Like, this card just reads win the game if you have those cards. So, you know, it's got to cost an awful lot. Cards that say win the game on them usually do. And it's really not hard. I mean, it's a 2-card combo, essentially, with either Riches or Marionette Master. And, like, you know, you could use already existing treasures to try to help cast this in the Marionette Master or Riches deck, you know. And at that point, you may have to sacrifice a treasure or 2, but you'll get like 5, 6 treasures. So that just seems like a great way to win the game. Maybe a 1 or 2 of, or even maybe all the way to a 4 of, if you can make it easy enough to cast in decks like that. Because again, you just win. You just win. There's also the Mechanized Production deck. There's like a lot of decks that you win the game with this card in. So, I mean, this is, we're going to brew like 3 or 4 decks with it and see what happens, you know. This is like a really, really fun card that may be worth trying to get to that mana cost for. And honestly, in a mid-range format dominated by energy decks, a card that says you win the game for 7 mana is pretty good looking. So, I mean, people are playing Approach, right? And you got to play that thing twice. So, there's definitely like no stopping a card like this from actually being halfway decent. We'll give it a try. But those are all the rival spoilers for now, at least. I got a feeling that they're going to be coming down like an avalanche here pretty soon. The thing, I believe the pre-release is like the weekend of January 13th, which means that we've got just over a month until the set comes out, and usually the whole set is spoiled for a week before pre-release, so we really don't have a whole lot of time here before spoilers are gonna happen, and the whole set is going to be out relatively soon. So, you know, just stick with the channel. Make sure you subscribe if you're new or if you haven't done that yet. Hit the bell for the notifications, because there's going to be a big train of Rivals of Ixalan spoilers here coming soon. This is like one of my favorite times of year. Not just Christmas time, but spoiler season. I freaking love. So make sure you do all the YouTube stuff, like the videos, subscribe to the channel if you haven't done it yet. And you can also like me on, you can follow me on Twitter. You can like me on Twitter if you want to too. That's a feature. But you can follow me on Twitter at SBMTGDev or kick me a buck on Patreon at patreon.com/SBMTG. Sounded a little drunk at the end of that. I promise you I'm not, but anyway, United States. Anyway, you can also check out TCG Player. They help me keep the lights on, so if you want to check them out, I'll leave a link in the description down there. Or you can already order, like Unstable, that just came out, and you can get Ixalan Classic from them already at the lowest prices on the internet. They help me out. I hope you'll help them out. They're good people. But anyway, tapped out for now. Make sure you let me know how you felt about all these cards down there in the comments section. I actually think that the treasure thing is ridiculous, you know. And make sure you answer the question about Captain's Hook, you know. How much does this cost, and is it good at 2 mana? I want to know how you feel about that too. But in any case, promise you, done for now. I'm out. I'm Dev from the place, as usual. Thanks for watching, my wizards. Spread love. Be kind.